Hi, Ethan. Hey. Sorry, the thing crashed. I lost my recording. All we have is half an hour left. I'm very sorry about that. But anyway, let's take a look at the code we were looking at this morning. One thing I didn't show you at all, and didn't talk about at all, is the testing. So here again, remember there's two different testing libraries: RSpec, which is the one you've seen so far, and Minitest, which I like better because it's a little simpler. But since the book uses RSpec, I'll use it here. I'm not even sure if this is going to run, to be honest, but I could try. Let me just try it just for the fun of it. Because I didn't, the other one I debugged this morning, but I forgot that this was even in here. So you run RSpec by typing RSpec, and gives a lot of errors because require cannot load file rack test. Okay, think. I think I solved the problems that this thing had in another class. So let me just go here, new Sinatra demo. Nope. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at what I did here to get the testing to work, right? Because I have testing. Oh, wait, I don't have it in here. No. I have it somewhere else. Okay, let me look again. Sorry. Which one was it? Pretty sure I got it to work. LS, yes. I don't think that. No, that's not it. Maybe not. Maybe I don't have it here.
We used it in our homework, but it requires what we used in our homework versus something different.
Yeah, no, it's the same one. I think actually now that you mentioned it, it's probably in GitHub, right?
We used it for the
So so call up your homework,
user service.
and so let me just take a look, see if this is still running. Yes. Let me just take a look at the error I just got when I try to run this thing. So again, when you see all this stuff, the temptation is always to go, oh my God, I don't know what it means, but instead slow down and read it. Cannot find file rack test. Okay, so we're going to look here. What does the preamble in the homework look like? What does this section look like for you?
Require rack test.
Yeah.
Require RSpec. Require relative. // service.
Okay. This, by the way, is the old way of writing require relative. It's much messier. So rack test is there. So now let's do gem install rack. Now, of course, this is always a problem, also because it's hyphen dash. What is it? Come on. Nope. So what I do when that happens is I go back to my browser. Oh, you can do this. One thing you can do is gem search rack. But the problem is there's so many things called rack. This is local. This is remote. Okay. That probably is going to be too long a list. Yes, as I thought. Oh, track is rack. Okay, fine. Go over here. Go to the browser. Look for rack. Rack test. Nope. Rack test. And look at what they say in the gem file. Nope, not there. Look at what they say here. Require rack test. They usually say to install. Install. Oh, okay. Rack dash test. I did hyphen test. Underscore test. Good. Now I go back to my original thing running RSpec. And, good. It hits a breakpoint. That's a good sign, is it not? No. Yes, it's a good sign. Exit out of here. Kill it. Get rid of the breakpoint, because that's just messing up my life. And the breakpoint was because I was showing it this morning. So the breakpoint's in here somewhere. Is it not? Yeah, there, here. Save it. Go back to the shell. Run it again. Okay, good. It all ran. Ignore this thing. It's just a deprecation warning. Anybody know what the word deprecation means in this context? It's another term that's used in software engineering. Go ahead.
Like methods that the provider of the software have decided to use. They're going to remove. So it's like mark for removal.
Exactly, mark for removal. So it means stop using this because soon it won't work anymore. Okay, so all these dots means that all the tests ran. Okay, so let's go look at the tests. So it all was good, actually. Lucky, lucky. This is commented out, so I'll just delete it. So basically, in an RSpec test, the key things to look at are these describe blocks and these it blocks. Okay? So if we collapse this whole thing, we see that the whole file is one big describe block. And they can be nested. So this is all to get Sinatra ready. And within a, hang on, this is weird. Right. Within a describe block, you can have something called before each. That means that before every test that's run as part of this test suite, first do this command. So it's like a preparation for the test. When you write unit tests, and we'll talk much more about them in the future class, the principle is that every test should work independent of the others. You shouldn't write tests where you have to run them A, B, C, D, where A sets up something for B. Instead, you should run them, and this has to do with isolating the things you're testing. So if something breaks, only one thing breaks, right? Yoon, you listening? So isolating it so only one thing breaks. So now the next thing we see is a nested describe block, which means another test collection within this one test. And it has its own before block, before each. So you can think of these as nested, right? To execute all the tests in here, every time I have to do this. And within this subgroup, which is testing this particular URL, before you do that, I want to create this user. So if you think about it, before every test, first I delete all the users. Then I create, for these ones, I create this particular user. This sentence here is just documentation. Okay, just gives a name to the whole block. Then it says, okay, within this describe block, there's all these tests that all are testing the same thing, right? So there's a whole bunch, up to line 64 is testing just that get, and that's just documentation. So the first test is that get API, now this literally is doing a get to the server. It's actually calling it with a get with this URL, and it says when this line finishes, the error code returned by HTTP should be success, and the response body should contain an attribute called name, which should be equal to Paul. So what it's doing is it's parsing the response that the server gave and figuring out that it has that value. Yeah?
Is there any particular significance to last response should be okay? Because when I ran RSpec, all my errors were traced back to that one.
And what did they say? Did they say that the last response was not a known method, or did it give that it was not okay?
It said it just failed, as though.
So it means that the last response was not okay.
Yeah, like when I was watching your screencast,
yeah.
I think you got something similar to last response should be okay, and that threw an error for RSpec. In the video you had a couple lectures ago.
Yeah, let's just try it. Let's say
so I tried checking.
Let's go. You can put a breakpoint right in the middle of this. Binding.pry. Make sure we have pry byblock here. We do. Run the test again. There we go, and then we can type last response here. And it's complicated, but if you look closely, there it is. At status is 200. Okay? So last response literally is a hash, an object, which contains all the bits of information coming back from the server, including the body, here it is, and various other things, and then the status. So if you were failing because last response was not okay, I would put this breakpoint in and see what you had for status. And then I would go back and look at the code, go back to service.rb, and look that you actually had, well, it's interesting because we don't officially say return a good status. So I would just look at it a little bit and see if you could figure it out.
Okay.
Okay? So continuing through the tests, well, it's more of the same. I get rid of this again. So basically, you can imagine that if I make a change to my service.rb, I could just run this test without and exercise every endpoint. But the difficulty or the challenge or the annoying thing is that you end up feeling like you wrote the code twice. You wrote the code to do it, and then you wrote the code to make sure it did what you said it was going to do. But the beauty is when you have not 20 lines of code, but 200,000 lines of codes, and by the way, a real product could have thousands of tests, and the test suite could run hours, and you could have 20 developers or 200 developers. And basically, before they release the product and push it onto the server, they run their whole test suite. And if something weird changed, like the version of this gem caused it to return something with a colon or without a colon, then of their 1,000 tests, 3 would fail. And they would go send it to programmers to go look at why they failed, and they could figure it out. So building unit tests is like a critical thing, which when we build these small programs feel like, what a nuisance, because I know it works. But really, we're trying to learn the technique of writing tests and writing unit tests. Yeah?
So in the book, it was talking about test-oriented design,
Mm-hmm.
so doing writing tests first or test first. Do you have any, I'm just curious, do you have any comments on that type of like?
I totally believe it. I totally believe it. Let me just give you an example. Let me go back to our little this thing, right? So remember I was talking about creating a separate class that I would use inside of my Twitter Whack Sinatra app. So I'm just gonna fake it. By the way, now we collected that screen. So I'm gonna fake it. I'm gonna write. I'm gonna create a directory here, which I'm gonna call spec or test, and in there I'm going to create a file, which I'm going to call Twitter Whacker test.rb, and I'm going to put in here. I'm not going to write proper test because it takes too much time to type it in, but I might put it. I might think about it this way. I want to define a class called Twitter Whacker, which has a method, and let's look at the assignment again. Which basically says, okay, gotcha. So let's say my class looks like this. Define initialize and define set words, word 1, word 2, and define retrieve, Twitter results, count, which returns a number, define Twitter results. Actually, this is stupid. I don't need this. And that's going to return an array of, result 1, result 2, and so on. Return whatever. And, oops. And let me just see what else we got here. Okay, so basically it's 2 search terms. It's going to result to calculate the user score and display the sample tweet that contains the search terms. A sample tweet. Okay, so define sample result, which just returns a result. And I'm going to say score, which returns score. Something. This is obviously not legal code. Something between 0 and 100. Okay, there's my interface. Now I could go implement it, or I can say, no. In a separate file, I'm going to write Twitter whacker. Well, I'm in this. This is in file Twitter whacker.rb, and then here's Twitter whacker spec.rb, and I might say describe. It initializes. Do it initializes end, and it can receive words, where you might say, you might put up here before every do tw equals Twitter whacker.new. And so now before every test it does that. And you might say tw dot score dot, what's the notation? I forget the notation myself. Should equal, yeah, okay, so so you should decide when there's no words yet, dot should equal nil, because you just decided that's the way you want it to work. And then you can say can receive words. So you could say, or it can find tweets about what's his name again? Whatever, Rolling Stones. Then you say tw dot set words, Rolling, Stones, and you say tw dot score dot should not equal to nil. Okay, I haven't written any code yet. I can run this test. It's going to fail, right? Now I go right, but what I've done is I've decided what the API of my class is going to be, and I wrote a few tests at the very superficial level to make sure that it does what I think it's going to do. Then I run, because this is in a separate file. Then I run this test. I got a lot of errors. So when I go to this file, I start filling in the code until the errors go away. I say, okay, that's fine, but now I have to add more functionality, and I go and I add more tests. And yes, I believe in it. In a case like this, that's what I would definitely do. So that's test-driven development. Test-driven development is, think about the class you want to build or the program you want to build or whatever it is, and express your functional specification, express what you want it to do in the form of tests, then run the tests and see them fail, and then fix them. And then add more tests and run the tests and see them fail and fix them. And that's test-driven development. And it really works. Who's ever been exposed to it before, to TDD? Anybody ever heard of it before? Good, excellent. We'll get to practice it. It's fun. And it forces you to think ahead a little bit instead of like stumbling in the dark, typing in lines, wondering why your 200-line program doesn't work. It forces you to break them up into chunks. It forces you to think clearly about what you actually expect the program to do. And then when you write the code that implements those expectations, you have confidence that it actually does what you think it's going to do. That answer your question? Okay. And so that's I would do this. This would be cool to do Twitter Whack this way, because the beauty is once you get this Twitter Whacker class working, now you've hidden from your whole Sinatra app any knowledge about Twitter and gems and APIs and all that stuff. It's all in this class. This class has been tested. You know it's robust. And now you can just write a little bit of Sinatra code to put around it, and you have a nicely modular program. Okay. So that's the test. I'll just put this here and see if anybody sees a line that they want me to talk about. Or is it all pretty clear? not. I don't think it's part of the assignment officially. But I was just trying to make a case that it'll be quicker, and you will probably get done quicker if you separate out the code. I'm going to see who actually does this because it's not officially part of the assignment. It's going to measure for me how dedicated you are to being a good software engineer. It's not part of the assignment. Write the test, separate out the code that does the Twitter talking, prove that it works, and then the Sinatra code that calls that new class is going to be super simple. You're not following.
Wait, can you say that one more time? Sorry.
Right. Did you understand as I was blabbing about this? Okay. So let me just actually drive it home a little bit further. I'm going to take this out of here. I'm going to put it here instead. I'm going to call it Twitter Whacker. Put it in here. It's a regular class. I'm going to make it. It is already legal, proper Ruby. So this will compile, although it won't do anything, right? This is the only one that's a little fishy, so I'm going to say return nil because my initial is like this.
Return.
Pardon?
Return, not returns. It should be fair.
I'm sorry?
I mean, for the method score, it should be return, not returns.
Oh yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Go away, go away, go away. I know it's true. It is redundant. But anyway, I have this thing. Nobody's wondered what those error messages are. I have this thing called RuboCop, R-U-B-O-Cop, which finds style mistakes. And I haven't recommended it to you yet. I'm just experimenting with it. Okay, so that looks like a proper, and if I say Control R, it should run without an error. Doesn't do anything, right? Now I'm going to go in here, and here's my test file. Wait a minute. What happened to my test file? Oh, wait. Okay, here's my test file. That's all it has in it. I'm going to fix this so it actually will run. That looks good. That looks good. That looks good. Okay? Now I have to add this junk to it. I think this is all I need, frankly. I don't need this anymore. That's old. I do need this, but I'm going to change it to the new way to say it, which is require relative to quote / Twitter whack. I think that'll work. Whacker, thank you. Oh, that's twice. That's stupid. Okay, so I'm going to just try running this, see what crazy thing happens. Control R. Horrors, right? Okay, but that's okay. Don't panic. Just go here and ls. I need to be here. I'm going to say rspec. No examples found. It must not have found the file, or it did find it, but it doesn't know what's going on. So let's look at my code. Let's say rspec test /. That's more like it. Go to the top. Oh, that's a really hard error message, but let's see if I can spot it with my. Well, so when that happens, what you do is you delete everything and see if it still happens. Okay, that's good. Then you put a piece back in, and you see if it still happens. And it doesn't. It does fail. So we examine this, and we go to an example we know works, which is this one. Before each do. Okay, what did I do? Before every. Not every, each. That's not a proper each do. Good, work, because there's no tests. Now I'm going to put this back in. Everybody keeping up with me? I'm going a little fast. Run it again. Okay. First of all, the returning nil is not working because TW doesn't exist. Okay, I know why that is, because it's not. It should be at. So basically, there's two tests in this file, right? One is called it can find tweets about Rolling Stones. The other one is called it initializes. So run it again. and they both failed. This one, oh, didn't I save it? Let's see. At TW save. It's interesting. Let's run it again. Okay. 2 examples, 1 failure. So this one fails. It can find tweets about Rolling Stones, but the other one worked. This little line here is very important. It says 1 test worked, 1 test failed. Okay. So I've learned some things. I know that the score is returning nil when there's nothing, when it's just been created, which we can see from this, not this. From this, it just returns nil, right? So now we can say, okay, cool, let's move this stuff in here. Copy this. I think I should put it in the initializer. Twitter whacker here. And instead of this, I'm going to do this. And of course, this should go at the top, so I'm going to move it over here. And this should be an instance variable because I'm going to use it later. And this can be tabbed to the left. No, can't be. Ooh, do I have the wrong number of tab stops here? No, it's correct. Okay, I guess this is what's throwing me off. Okay, and so I have add client and the initializer, and there's the other one. Good. Set words is easy. I'm just going to put a adder. Yes, reader, I think is all I need. Word 1, word 2. I don't even need this. Forget this. It's dumb. Just going to go over here and say add word 1 equals word 1. Add word 2 equals word 2. That's better. I don't know what the hell is wrong with this thing. I don't know what's wrong with it. Go away. Okay. And then finally here, what I want to say, I'm going to look at my example here that we did get to work, which was this one. And yeah, so we basically need this. And oops, keep forgetting. By the way, command back quote, reverse quote, changes windows within the same app. So when I do this, that's what I'm doing. Command back quote. Okay, so I'm going to go here, Twitter Whacker itself. I'm going to put this code in here. Okay, it's add client, search, and instead of this, I'm going to say at word 1 plus space, maybe, to be safe, plus is concatenate in Ruby. And I'm going to take, go away. Word 1 plus add word 2. And result type that. I'm going to stop here. And I'm going to get rid of this. And I'm going to go at words, results equals this. Get rid of this. I don't need that. These things should precede it. Okay. So now I should be able to say return results. I have no idea what I'm going to get. And sample results should be at results sub 0, let's say. Okay. Now I'm going to run my test to see what happened, right? Okay, bad things. Okay, there's obviously a mistake here. That's wrong. What? Why is that an unexpected thing? This should be an at here. At word 1. I think I must have a non-text character in here or something. Plus. Okay, help me here. What's wrong here? Word 1 are both instance variables. Client search, open paren. Okay, I'm just going to do this. Search string equals quote pound at word 1 space pound at word 2 and I'm going to put search string here. Okay, good. That should work. So funny. I don't know what's wrong with them. These error messages look not relevant to what I'm doing, so I don't understand, but I will ignore them. And now we run it again. Okay, it ran one test, and it failed in the other one. And if we look here, it says RSpec does not support should expected, use should not expected. Okay, gotcha. So I'm going to go to my test, and I'm going to say should not equals nil. Still failed. It expected not equal to nil. It got nil. Okay, so the score is still nil. Okay, so we're going to modify because we're still just hacking together this thing. I don't know yet how I'm going to compute the score. So I'm just going to say return 0, no, return at results, which is the results, dot length, greater than 0, then return 1, else return 0. Okay? Simple idea. I tested, and I failed both of them because I had a test before. Okay, so look at this. We're almost out of time. I'll stop here. But let's analyze this. On line 27, length does not exist. So line 27 at results. Why? Because results gets created when you call set words. I haven't called set words yet, right? So that's the problem here. So, okay, that's a fair point. So maybe I should say if at results dot nil question mark, then return nil, else return at results dot length. Okay, so now my score calculation says return nil if there's no words, and otherwise return how many results you got. That's my idea of a score. It may not be right. I run it, and I still have a failure because length is not. Okay, got it. So the results that this thing returns is actually not an array, as I assumed. Anyway, I'll stop here. But you see the process. You looked like you had a question on the tip of your tongue.
Well, I was going to say you can return that results done, just nil.
Well, I wanted to have a number. I have to look at what that API, that gem returns for results to figure out how to find a count how many results there were. Okay? But the process is what I want you to see. Do a little change in the test. You run it. It fails. You fix it. Then you add functionality. Because I don't even know what the official calculation that the instruction said I should do for the score. I just made something up because for now all I care about is to get the framework to work. Then later on I can go read what the actual calculation for score is, and I can update just that method and the test and continue from there. Pardon? It's still not officially part of the assignment. It's a test of your sincerity. No, it's not. You will not be graded down if it's not there, but we will just go like this if it's not there. I think it's helpful to practice, but don't kill yourself over it. I claim, though, that you will get done quicker if you do it this way. But that's just a claim that I can't prove. Okay? Whew. It's still running this time. Yay.